Namaste viewers, welcome to the course on the fundamentals of Indian temple architecture. I am Rekha Rao from India, a researcher in ancient history and archaeology. I'd like to present a series of 8 introductory courses, each of 20 to 12 minutes duration, about the fundamentals of Indian temple architecture. I want to focus on how various branches of science got imbibed into Indian temple architecture. This is topic 1 of the course, where we discuss why is India a land of innumerable big temples. We will explore what is an Indian temple. Then we will study the temple structure in the early phase of Indian history and how it evolved with time. We then explore the reasons for the prolific temple building activity in India. India has over 500,000 temples of various sizes. Finally, we look at the aspects that promoted this prolific temple building activity, which involved immense labor and expenditure. Let's start with what is an Indian temple. Temple is a prayer place that houses an idol of God in the innermost chamber. In Indian languages, this chamber is called Garbhagriha, which is the sacred place, sanctum. In slide 1, I present 2 pictures of India's oldest functional Hindu temples. The picture on the left is a temple from 6th century CE, located in a place called Sanchi in central India. As shown in the picture, the roof of the sanctum was flat. The sanctum was attached to a pillar assembly area. Both were constructed with rectangular or square block of stones. The temple in this era were simple and did not have much decorative carvings. The picture on the right shows a temple from 7th century CE. It shows early experiment of making the temple top called Vimana. The sanctum that housed the deity's figure was given architectural eminence. It was topped with slabs at diminishing size towards the sky into a tall tapering roof. This tapering structure was called Vimana, which was symbolic of the ascent of spiritual levels. Let's now look into an evolved form of a bigger temple constructed in the 11th century CE. Slide 2 shows a temple from this period in the South Indian place called Itagi. As temple structure evolved, the tapering Vimana was extended to great heights and was topped with a roundish finial structure called Shikara. The word Shikara literally means the peak of the temple. The pillared veranda in front was enlarged into an ample square space called Mandapa. The pillars in this era of temples were more than a mere supporting structure. They were embellished with intricate designs and sculptures. Some temples also had a platform where artists could perform their feats of dance and music. The entire complex was raised on a paved rectangular or star-shaped structure. We will now explore some of the aspects that promoted the prolific temple building activity. Rulers of a particular region typically sponsored for the construction of a temple because it was a public prayer place. The construction of temple and embellishing it with intricate carvings of motifs and sculptures involved significant expenditure. And it also involved labor by skilled workers. Each of these monuments have survived well for over 1,000 years. It is interesting to know why and how the great dynasties that reigned India for centuries could build so many temples. Indian dynastic rulers of the past were indigenous and followers of Vedic knowledge and Hinduism. Their faith in the Almighty strongly inspired the rulers to sponsor temples. An in-depth study into the Indian history reveals that the political, religious, literary, economic, social, and folk conditions were also conducive factors for the construction of temples. Some aspects which acted as catalysts towards the prolific temple construction are dynastic greatness claimed by rulers, technological advancements in quarrying the rocks through the ages, religious and social developments. Let's study each one of them in more detail. Almost all dynastic rulers of India felt the need to demonstrate their own identity and greatness through architectural contributions. Until the Mughal invasion, India was ruled by indigenous rulers. The great dynasties such as Rashtrakutas, Guptas, Chandelas, Chalukyas, Hoysalas, Pallavas, and Vijayanagara dynasties were followers of Hinduism. Each dynasty ruled for a few centuries and longed to make their regime to be remembered as the golden age of cultural activity. Whether the activity was starting a new temple or adding to what was already built, every dynastic ruler tried to overshadow the past temples in grandeur by adding new themes and techniques. The master sculptors, attracted by the material gains, considered it a prestige to work and exhibit their skills in the temples built by dynastic kings and ministers. Rulers had an aspiration to promote themselves as immortal and ideal kings through architectural contributions. Victories of war were celebrated by sponsoring a temple as a memorial because this act assured prosperity in their land. The king's vast financial reserves were also used to build innumerable temples and maintain many artists and other staff in the temple service. Through the ages, every ruler in India believed in the ideal thought of the post-Vedic scripture that one who rejoices in making temple gets eternal riches and he is worshipped in heaven. This concept motivated the kings, queens, the generals, ministers, merchants, and commoners to extend outstanding support to temple building, and thus king became the role model for general public. Donating the required wealth for a good cause was a diplomatic order issued by the rulers that dissuaded the thought of hoarding wealth. The names of donors who donated land to build temples, water tanks, or finance the staffing or maintenance of temple activities were glorified by having their names in temple inscriptions. An example of this is shown in slide 3. This inspired many wealthy people to contribute generously so that their names were marked permanently in temple inscriptions. Dedication of temple in the name of loved ones, such as parents, teachers, or preceptors, were encouraged by the rulers. Slide 3 is an example picture of the temple inscription that records historic data of the name of the ruler, the amount donated by the donor, and such other details. Temples, water tanks, and residential halls were built in the major cities, trade routes, and banks of rivers, which attracted many devotees. Let's now study technological advancements. The primary technical advantage enjoyed by the sculptors was in cutting and transporting rocks from the geological rock beds. The engineering skills evolved from time to time along with the knowledge of mathematics, geometry, architecture, etc. As illustrated in slide 4, improved techniques made it easier to carve intricate figures to get high polish, resulting in a revolutionary sculptural art change. The introduction of late-turn equipment to be used for pillars inspired sculptors to carve wonderful designs of non-repetitive challenge. This significantly made a pillar, the simple supportive structure, into a highly embellished piece of art. The simple cruciform plan of the temple with a single cell was developed into a complex stellate plan structure with mathematical precision, as shown in slide 5. The angular displacement of stellate plan, ranging from 16 to more points, gave the sculptors enhanced scope and more space for the display of sculptural embellishment. Considering the religious and social developments, Indians from the past 3,000 years have been worshipping various gods. Devotion and sincere faith in God, called bhakti, was the pivotal sentiment that originated in the land of ancient sages. Indian art in all forms is fundamentally based on the spiritual content of glorifying the Creator in all the grandeur. Innumerable temples with perfect plan, design, fairness, delicacy, and vitality of sculptures were built, which also became a meeting place for community to congregate. It's interesting to explore why a simple prayer place turned out to be a complex monument. Religious discourses, cultural events in the form of dance and music, and recitation of moral stories of epics were conducted on temple premises. These evening programs for the general public were to revitalize the spiritual energies. People motivated by an awareness of their land's spiritual and cultural heritage were inspired to visit temples often. As a result, the temple gradually became a significant monument with added gathering halls for ritual-based activities and a platform to perform cultural feats. Ordinary people and travelers were allowed to assemble in the large pillared halls to enjoy the cultural events of dance and music. Special occasions and annual festivals called Parva attracted huge crowds. Since these temple events often were placed in temples, they required the construction of large spatial temples. Let's now summarize the key learnings from this topic. Temples, which started as a simple worshipping place, evolved in size, architectural complexity, and aesthetic values. Temples became an indispensable part of society in every small village, as they served as centers of religion, education, and the fine arts. As a result, temples became a key avenue for the propagation of Hindu values despite multiple foreign invasions. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next topic in this series.